In today's video, we step into the Bobbyverse with We Are Legion, We Are Bob by Dennis E. Taylor. I wanted to step in here before this video gets going. There were some weird audio issues where it cuts in and out sometimes, and I'm not real sure why. I don't know if my microphone's going out or what, but just apologies beforehand. And I don't really have time to redo the whole video, so it is what it is. Thank you for watching. Today I'm going to be reviewing the first book in the Bobbyverse series, We Are Legion, We Are Bob. And let me start off by talking about the book itself. So this book was released back in 2016, and then it was recently re-released under a new publisher, Saga Press. I think it was late in 2025. And anyway, so they are coming out with these new hardcovers that are really pretty nice. We've got new cover artwork, which in this first one I really like the design for this, and they've got painted edges. So every book is gonna have painted edges, but they're all gonna be, they all say Bob in a different way. Kind of interesting. And then if you look on the inside, there is some artwork here as well that they've added. And then they've also added some artwork. The back end pages, they're a little bit different from the front. So I saw that this edition was getting released and decided to pick it up and try the book, because I've never read this book before. And what better time to start reading it than we have a nice new hardcover release like this one. And yeah, it does shine a little bit. So this, yeah, the ship here is kind of shiny. So it's really a nice book. So I want to start off this review by we're going to first talk about what the book was about. So We Are Legion, We Are Bob is a fun science fiction adventure novel about a software engineer named Bob who ends up as a von Neumann probe and sent into space. As I mentioned before, it's the first in the Bobbyverse series, and this book kind of sets the stage for what I think is going to end up being a very highly entertaining series. After reading this, it's very clear that Dennis Taylor has taken his love from a lifetime of consuming science fiction media and turned it into a book. There are a ton of references in this novel to all of our favorite science fiction film franchises and other sci-fi media, from video games to other science fiction books, and just anything that you might have grown up with watching and enjoying in science fiction. You can really tell that all of these things come together really influenced Dennis Taylor for this. And the story often feels like, if you're a fan of Star Trek, it definitely feels like kind of a combination of different episodes of Star Trek all put into one book. And then sometimes it has kind of a video game feel to it, which I'm not saying that is a bad thing. I actually thought he did a really good job pulling that off, where you can kind of see some themes that he might have picked up from science fiction video games. And yeah, the end product of this is a really good novel. It's an unexpectedly good novel. So it's a very lighthearted, very fun, entertaining novel. And going into that, I kind of expected a John Scalzi, Andy Weir, Edward Ashton type of book, and that's what we get for sure. But I didn't expect it to be as good as it was, and I didn't expect to enjoy it this much. Also, I could kind of see some comparisons to Ready Player One. Read and liked that book, so there are a lot of, like I said, a lot of references to old science fiction material. So this story begins with Bob, who is a software engineer, and he's the owner of a software business. So he's a very wealthy man, and he signs up for this cryogenics program, where upon his death he will be frozen. The hope that he'll later be revived in some way. Kind of starts out like maybe this is a scam type situation, but obviously it turns out that it's not. So then we get his death, untimely death. Turns out this cryogenics program is in fact real. Wakes up over a century later in this kind of he doesn't realize it quite at first, but he's in of almost a virtual environment, but more of like computer mind controlling a camera. There's this scientist looking at him and asking him questions, asking him to perform different things. So it's definitely he doesn't expect that he's gonna wake up like this, and it's kind of a uploaded intelligence situation where his mind has definitely been put into a computer system where he's able to control robotics and get able to set up his kind of own VR, his virtual reality world. And so when he wakes up, he starts off going through some training if he's going to be a viable person, because some people aren't really compatible with having their mind computer. And it turns out that at the time when he is woken up, the United States has turned into a theocracy. The world is kind of separated into different chunks of empires. There's a Brazilian empire, there's a empire of Europe and Southeast Asia. I think there's an Australian empire. There's all these different giant governments, and they're kind of at conflict with each other. Of course, the United States is in its own theocracy type government, and it's got all these factions. It's a really volatile situation on Earth that he's woken up to. And he is told that he is going to be put into a kind of spaceship, a space probe, and sent off into space as a von Neumann probe. So if you don't know von Neumann probes, they get sent off into space, and there they pick up resources from asteroids and planets and things, and they use metals and ores to find them, and then manufacture more of themselves, so more of the probes, more of the spaceships, what have you, and they kind of replicate themselves, and they send off more to other solar systems. So it's kind of like an exponential growth situation as each of these probes spreads from one system to the next. And it turns out that Bob is going to become one of these probes. And I think the hope here is that he's going to find a potential habitable world for humanity, so they can colonize it. So this government that he's working for can colonize it. And for waking up like this, he really takes this very well. Like, he doesn't go insane. He's just kind of like, okay, my situation now. And he also has access to some like computer, artificial intelligence technologies that help him calculate math and engineering. Gives it more processing power than the brain would have. So he takes all this in stride, and of course the character Bob has a love of science fiction, so kind of familiar with this situation already, and that kind of helps him to be okay with it as well. And he's also an engineer already. So yeah, he's eventually sent out to space, and from there he starts making more Bobs. Each time he creates and clones himself into a new Bob. They all give themselves different names, so there won't just be a bunch of Bobs. So we have a Bill Bob, a Riker Bob, Milo, Mario, Calvin, Bart, Linus. So it turns out also that each Bob is a little bit different from the original. Every time they clone themselves, they each have a little bit different personality. They're all still Bob, but maybe one's a little more introverted, maybe one's a little more interested in coordinating all the other Bobs and manufacturing. Maybe one wants to explore this area, another one wants to go somewhere else. So we have all these different Bobs that are ever so slightly different. So that allows the book to kind of give us a variety of characters while they're all still Bob. They're not quite Bob. So we have all these Bobs out, different solar systems, nearby stars to our own. Some of them are sent further out. Some of them are sent back to Earth because of the original situation is turning into a conflict. So they're going there to check up on things. And yeah, it turns out that Earth is not doing so well. I won't talk about this here. I don't want to get into spoilers. But there are some things going on Earth. We also have some really interesting things going on the other solar system. Bobs like to explore everything. They like to explore all the planets. They check out all the asteroids for resources to build more probes and other things like that. And one of the solar systems has sentient life on it, kind of like was similar to very early man, where they're just learning how to use fire. One of the Bobs kind of makes it his story, focusing on this planet of sentient beings where he observes them, and then the issue of the Prime Directive comes up from Star Trek. No, no Star Trek, you know what the Prime Directive is, so you can kind of guess where that storyline's going to go. And then there's also a situation where the Brazilian Empire sent their own von Neumann replicant probes, and this guy's really militaristic. So there's some conflict going on there, where there's some space battles and things like that going on. So it really makes for several different plot lines going on that are really interesting. All of them are really fun to read. So we get a little bit of everything here. We get exploration of the solar systems, space battles, get this situation on Earth going on. And it's kind of like watching, like I said, it's like watching several different episodes of Star Trek all at once. And during this whole time, Bob is constantly making references to all these old science fiction franchises. So and it also kind of adds some humor to the story as well. All this makes for a really enjoyable novel. So I did have kind of a small criticism novel, which not a big deal, but I'll go over that in the next section. So for some further thoughts here and maybe some criticism of this novel, this isn't a story for those who are expecting hard science fiction, although it does present several interesting scenarios, and it approaches those scenarios with kind of an engineer's mindset. The hard science details are often left out, and we kind of end up with some hand-wavy things happening, kind of similar to a Star Trek episode. For instance, he goes to a solar system, and it's not really explained how he extracts all the minerals and metals from the asteroids, and just kind of shown that he has these auto factories set up to replicate things and all that. Also, Bob is like he's a really intelligent person. He is able to set up this VR, this virtual reality system within his probe. I know, so he does have some extra kind of processing power from this computer system, and he has access to like the full library of Earth, of all these different training materials and things. So he's able to figure out all these problems to create new technologies and other ways to benefit himself and the other Bobs. So you kind of have to accept that Bob is just this exceptional person now, and he's able to invent new things and strategize and come up with new ways of doing things. But I think, it kind of keeps the novel entertaining and interesting. And despite this, I think it's still a very solid science fiction novel nonetheless. I think that's probably my main or even my only criticism. Also, the space travel itself, so there's no faster than light travel, but these ships have this drive called a surge drive that's able to get one solar system to the next within a matter of 20 or 30 years. In reality, it'd take quite a bit longer than that. And none of this is really explained in detail, like how the surge drive works. So, it's just, it's that kind of a story, which, there's nothing wrong with that, but just kind of expect that going in. There's a lot of humor and levity in this novel, so it's really meant to be just a fun novel that explores science fiction ideas. It explores the von Neumann probe concept, not really in detail, but kind of what it might look like if you had an uploaded intelligence as a von Neumann probe, which I think is a really fascinating idea in itself. So kind of some interesting setups here. I also I guess I will add another small criticism here. The book does end kind of abruptly, so a couple of the storylines kind of get wrapped up, but it's a very like the book just ends all of a sudden. It's a short book, only 300 pages, and it is the first in a series, so you kind of have to plan on, I'm assuming, reading the whole series to really get a good picture of the whole story. I would have liked a more kind of a nicer wrapping up of this novel, but I did go ahead and purchase the next book series, and I go ahead and plan to read that fairly soon. And so I think there are 5 books in here, and they're re-releasing all in hardcover. But the first 2 books are out as of the time of this video. Like they're kind of getting released every couple of months. So for some of the science fiction concepts you're going to find in this novel, have space travel, of course, with Bob and probes that are sent into space with a drive called the surge drive. And then, of course, we have the main concept here, the von Neumann probe, along with the concept of uploaded intelligence. So Bob is the uploaded intelligence uploaded into the von Neumann probes, sent out to gather resources and replicate himself and spread out the galaxy. We also have some artificial intelligence, somewhat. There are some AI programs that Bob uses to help him figure things out and kind of operate some of the drones and whatnot. And we also have the concept of virtual reality. So Bob creates his own virtual reality system. It's not very detailed virtual reality, and there's not a focus on this. That's just kind of where Bob houses his consciousness to keep himself from going insane, kind of thing. And we also have exoplanet discovery, so he does go to other solar systems and explores and discovers all these other exoplanets. And we have alien life, so some of these planets do have alien life on them, and at least one of them has sentient life. And we also have space battles, so this war going on with this other probe. And then the last concept I want to go over quickly is a post-apocalyptic Earth. Earth is very bad situation. All these big governmental powers that at odds with each other, and that becomes a major plot line with one of the Bobs. We do have all these concepts together, and for a very interesting novel. Okay, so for my final section of this video, my overall review and rating of the novel, We Are Legion, We Are Bob. Fun, fast-paced story, and perfect for those of us who want a lighthearted read with some interesting science fiction concepts and lots of ideas to explore. I think I would recommend this to any science fiction fan. And I'm going to give this novel a 4 out of 5 stars. Alright, that's it for this video. Let me know in the comments, have you read any of the Bobbyverse books? Did you like them? Did you not like them? You're planning on reading them soon? Let me know what you think. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you next time.